Now, this video, I'm going to be covering the opportunity that you have in your IT business. And it's something that is maybe not apparent to you. And it's something that I've learned based on the work that I've done with many IT service providers as part of IT Rockstars. Or members or clients of us. And what we've seen over the last few years since the pandemic is the way that people are doing business has changed somewhat. And because of that change, there's actually quite a large opportunity in front of you. And I'll give you some examples of this, what the actual opportunity is. But if you cast your mind back pre-pandemic, when you were meeting with a prospect or a potential client, it was very much face-to-face. You had to meet with them in person. You had to get them to, when you finally got to the point when they were going to sign that managed service agreement for your IT services, it was very much face-to-face. Then we obviously had the pandemic and things changed massively. One of the unique things about the pandemic is the fact that everyone started using Teams and Zoom, and everyone was forced onto that platform, those types of platforms. And because of that, what's happened now since then is that everyone's used to doing a video call as opposed to meeting in person. It's very much taken for granted. But if you cast your mind back to before that, it wasn't taken for granted. It was seen as something, I wouldn't say unusual, but it wasn't the way business was done. And it very much now is. I continually, 99% of the business that I do is done via Microsoft Teams. I very rarely actually meet my clients in person. And casting my mind back to when I was doing IT services and sales for IT, for an MSP, it was very much local. I was like one of the fish in the fishbowl, quite a small area. It's a place called Aberdeen in Scotland. I think it's like 150,000 people population-wise, but there was like 30 MSPs at the time. So it was all these fish trying to get all of this food, basically, or these little bits of food and scraps of food. But that is now opened up because really the fact that you can now do business over Teams and Zoom means that you can expand your business nationally or even internationally. And we've got many members here at IT Rockstars who are doing exactly this. Now, some of the objections that you might have to this, and the first one that I've always had was like, how do you provide IT services if you're 500 miles away or the other side of the country? How do you do that? Because when you're providing IT services, managed services, there is still an element of having that boots on the ground IT support. What these modern MSPs are doing is they're partnering with other MSPs locally to provide that hands-on first line requirement. Go and turn off this switch and turn it back on physically, or install this server. Now I'm getting maybe a little bit too technical here, but they've built up these partnerships, and they've done that because of the internet. They've managed to form these relationships via online communities like IT Rockstars, find other MSPs, and then strike a deal with them for that boots on the ground support. So that really, knowing that change has happened, and the fact that you can now scale nationally or internationally, the question is, okay, how are you going to do that? And you might have some skepticism about rapid growth of your company. If you've suddenly got national, you're going to have this massive influx of clients. The shadow system that we teach is very much about predictable growth. So it's not over the top claims that we're going to get 10 or 20 appointments in the diary in the course of 4 weeks. It's very much predictable growth, meaningful conservative numbers that you can balance with your business. So when you start to take on those new clients, you're not going to overload your engineers and your tech team. So that's one of the concerns that I hear. The other one is like the minimal effort required. There isn't minimal effort. It's actually a bit of a complex system. That's why we have this checklist here. And that's why I've got these videos. So I've actually got 3 videos that I'm going to be sending out to you that break down the sort of technicalities of the checklist and actually how to implement them. And then the other thing that I always get when I talk about the elements within the checklist is speak to any of the IT service providers that I work with. And I always ask them, what marketing are you doing at the moment? And quite often they say they've done some, they've got burnt in the past, or they're doing some, it works really well, it takes up too much time, or they're outsourcing it, but they're not seeing the types of results that they need. A lot of the times though, they've grown their business by referral, word of mouth referrals, and just being there in person on the ground. So when it comes to things like digital marketing, which is actually completely different, the types of prospects that you get in via digital marketing, there's some objections raised there. So there's a bit of a process that you need when it comes to pulling in the right types of leads for your business and what you actually do with those leads when they're coming in the door. So we discussed that in the shadow system as well,